Welcome to Talent Pop Podcast, where we will provide tips and strategies for success in sales, networking, marketing, and business. We will be learning from real stories that will inspire you to unlock your potential, discover your talents, and develop the confidence to take action on your biggest dreams. We are focused on empowering women to connect their passions with their purpose to find true fulfillment. It's time to pop off, queens! Pop off, queens! Hi, this is Amanda O'Connell. I'm your host of Talent Pop Podcast. We are on with Olivia Mckenelly. We call her Liv Mac, and this is episode 5. We're going to be talking about purpose and identity and a lot of different stuff, but she's been amazing. She's been with us for almost 2 years now, which is incredible. Time really flies, especially at a startup like ours. But she goes to Northeastern University. She's a co-op student. You would never guess it, because she's doing basically everything I do here at work, here at Recruiterboom. She's crushing it. She's running a full desk. So she's doing like full cycle recruiting. She's working with agencies, working with all sorts of different types of companies, and just has had some great success, especially recently. I think once all the pieces, tie together and you really start to like hit the ground running, I think we've all kind of had our moments like in recruiting. You kind of go through this like realm of training and learning, just the business and learning about yourself, and we're going to talk about all that. But it definitely is challenging. I think it's and Liv will tell you, but it's challenging to get trained and go through all that, and then get to your next level, and then start working with some of these like amazing clients and candidates and just piecing it all together. So welcome, Liv. Thank you so much for being here.
Wow, what an intro that was. Hi, everyone. I'm so honored to be on Talent Pop. I think this is like the 4th episode. I've been listening religiously, so it's just an honor to be able to sit here with Amanda and kind of inform you guys on our everyday conversations that we have all the time. So it's really cool to let you guys in on this.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So I want to dive into just your experience. I think just being like, it's so crazy to me that you're a student, because you're just crushing it right now. We did a deal. We did 2 deals together on the same day last week. It was just on Friday, because that's Job Offer Friday. We love that.
We do love that double deal day. Those are the best.
Yeah, so it's great. Like, we've just been riding the momentum, and then just being able to partner with her. It's just so much fun. We love that collaboration aspect. But I want you to share kind of your journey just on, like, I guess, being a student, going through that transition, coming here. I mean, you've clearly like just dove in and had success. So like, just any advice you can share with like young people, or even people trying to transition like into recruiting.
Yeah.
Just like kind of what that journey has been like for you, and just how you've kind of found yourself and like found your groove.
Definitely. I do like to describe myself as Hannah Montana sometimes, just because I'm living a double life, in the sense of that I go to classes like every other college student, and then when I'm in the co-op season, I end up going here like a professional businesswoman, talking to CEOs and everything. So it's definitely a bigger change than I think most students in college are used to. But I think for sure, just being able to be in a recruiting profession, I know that before I started at Recruiterboom, I didn't know what recruiting was at all. And I remember I had Sydney Gagnon, who reached out to me on LinkedIn and kind of said, like, want to meet the team. And from there, I was like, this sounds like a really great opportunity. Like, not that I really knew what recruiting was, because I feel like a lot of people that do get into recruiting honestly don't go to school for it. It's just something that finds them.
Yeah, I certainly didn't. And I think we talk to recruiters all the time. Yeah. We joke around that they literally stumble, like they tripped and fell into it. So
yeah, it's honestly the best place to follow, though, I think, personally. But I think with joining the recruiting team, and what recruiting is I like to think of recruiting as I'm a matchmaker. We have suitable opportunities and people that would use those traits to kind of go into that, and it's like a perfect match. I love being able to help somebody find a job and kind of take that next step in their career and kind of help them out in that sense. And then as for being an entry-level recruiter, I think for tips and tricks is to kind of just do what you're passionate about and work hard. I think that within life, everything that is meant to be for you will find you, as long as you're working hard and doing everything right within that steps. I think it makes it a lot easier having Amanda and my other coworkers who have mentored me and showed me the ropes. So I think that they definitely support me and help me along this journey.
Yeah, that's awesome and super interesting too. I think students might feel, I don't know if you can speak to this, but might feel anxiety about like, oh, I'm not on the right path, or what do I do? I think that gives a lot of comfort to people, knowing that if you're following like what's natural to you and what you naturally enjoy doing, you're going to be happy in your career. We talk about this, with We Culture and like our company, like you want to enjoy what you're doing every day. You're coming to work, you're spending so many hours here. You have to feel fulfilled. Like you said, it's fulfilling when you place somebody, you're helping somebody, find a better situation, improving their compensation, their lifestyle, whatever that may be. But I think like people sometimes feel like they need to be on a certain path and like, oh, this is my major. And like, I think we help people with that, but we've also like
dealt with that ourselves for sure. I think there's a lot of pressure within my age in the day being, you have to have it all figured out right now. Take it from me, you really don't, guys. Like, you're gonna mess up a million times and think you want something, and then it's gonna be the exact opposite of what you want. And I think you have to find comfort in the fact of you'll be where you're supposed to be. And if you're doing something and you don't really like it, you're that much closer to finding out what you do like. I think that's something that's really important to me. And like, as long as you're having fun doing something and learning, you don't have to have it all figured out right away. Yeah,
and you can't be mad at yourself, I think, for not feeling like you're in the right spot. Like, I know I knew, like, I majored in marketing. I was like, marketing is where I want to be. And then I was doing it, but I realized that I really enjoyed like talking with people, and I really missed, I was so much behind the scenes, behind a desk in a cubicle, and I love the collaboration. And and it depends, like you find different environments too. Like you realize recruiting at one company could be way different from recruiting at another company. Yeah. Even agency to agency, we see this all the time with our clients too. Like you got to meet the team. You have to see yourself in the environment, like, just really trying to, envision yourself. And then again, like with this whole alignment, this whole topic I think is so important, is just finding that joy in like what you're doing every day. And I think getting through, we could talk about this too, is like how you developed grit, right? And like getting through the tough times to really, really start to enjoy what you're doing and loving what you're doing. I think there's an aspect, I know that I feel like this with dance, like dancing was such a huge part of my life, but I think back and I'm like, wow, I loved it so much, but I went through a lot of crappy times where I had to like work so much on my technique and just different things, like, showing up every day despite the obstacles and the struggles and the homework and like, and I'd love to kind of hear your experience with just, life and these curveballs that you've been thrown and like how you've kind of overcome that to like be where you are too. Yeah,
definitely. I think for anyone that doesn't know, I played soccer at Northeastern for all 4 years, and then obviously started playing when I was really young. And I think for me, I'm an entirely different person than I was when I first came into college, just like overcoming obstacles and how I'm stronger from that. But I think too, with being a soccer player, all of those skills do transfer into what I'm doing today. And as for being stronger and being able to go into something and have a different mindset, I think for me, I live by a quote that if it was easy, everybody would do it. And that's something that motivates me when something's a little bit tougher or I don't feel like I can do it. I can do way more than I think that I can. And I think that our minds try to limit ourselves way all the time, honestly. Like, I'll just be like, I can't do this, and I psych myself out before I even try to do it.
Totally.
And it's only normal, and that happens in sports and work, but I think that we all have to have the confidence that we've dealt with stuff that's way bigger and harder than this. And I think that is honestly something that gets me through every day, just thinking that.
I love that, because I think about that too. Like, that's such good advice for people. I think you think about your hardest moment, and then whenever you're going through a hard time, you're like, well, I made it through that, so...
Especially at the gym, right? When you're on the treadmill or something and you're only running for like, say, 10 minutes, like it's a sprint, and during that 10 minutes, you're like, this is the longest 10 minutes of my life. But then say you're hanging out with your friend or something, it's like that went by like that. Yeah. I think that in the moment, it always seems worse, and then after, you're like, that was it, I could have done more. Like, yeah. And looking at that with that perspective after, and everything in like life definitely changes the way you look at and like conquer different things.
Yeah. So what do you feel like you're getting out of like this opportunity in recruiting, like that's similar to like maybe like soccer? Because like there's just so much of like a transition that happens. And I feel like we talked about this last week, just you and I, like I felt when I left like the dancing world, I really felt like a void.
Yeah.
And I was trying to fill it. And I thought I would just be able to like move on and like, okay, it's my career now. But it's like, it's not easy to make that transition because you feel like you're leaving a piece of you behind. And I always wondered, and I never really talked about this with people, but I always wondered if other people felt like that too, or felt it as strongly as I did.
Yeah, definitely. I think most athletes do, because it's like you've created this identity from like when you were born to start playing your sport, and everything you almost do is surrounded by that and who you are, what you wear. And I think that it's hard that when one day all of a sudden you might not be eligible to play anymore, but your mind is still in that mindset where you want to play.
Yeah.
And now that you're just old enough or whatever it is, an injury, it's like, how do you change your mind to not think of yourself with that identity anymore? Because eventually you do have to move on.
Because that's how people know you too. Like I would, I knew that people knew me as that, and that was also my I think it was my comfort zone in a way too, because you work so hard, you develop all this confidence, but then you go into a new career and you're not confident. Like you have to build it all up again.
Yeah. You don't have that security blanket or whatever it is with your sport. People knowing that you're an athlete, you're good at what you do, and now you're going to an entirely different field without that comfort of people knowing how good you are without you even having to show it sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely difficult for everyone. I mean, I recently just finished my soccer career at Northeastern this past season, so I've been trying really hard to try to fill that void that I've been having. But I guess in sense of filling that, I'm not trying to replace it. And I think that's the thing a lot of people get wrong, is you try to replace that void that you had within that sport, but you'll always have love for that sport you did, that time you did, but you can just not replace, but kind of change your habits, change your mindset, and do other things that kind of distract you or make you happy throughout the time.
Yeah, I think you're so right about that. I think it's finding appreciation for something new in your life and like opening the door to that, like feeling like welcoming something new without losing
that
passion for what you did before.
Exactly. And I know a lot of people too, like for me, I used to love working out with a team. Like team lifts and just being with the entire team, firing me up was something I really enjoyed. So obviously when the season ended, it was difficult because you don't have this team to go lift with.
Yeah.
So I started to incorporate different workouts that I might not have been able to do during the season. So recently with two of my coworkers, I went to core power yoga, which I would have never thought to do that before. And it was an entirely different workout, and it was fun. And I was starting to love the game and working out in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think those transitions and trying different experiences based on what you've done before makes a huge difference in who you're going to become.
Yep. And I think it's great because you're filling that void, but in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Where I feel like you could do that in other ways.
Definitely.
But it's like the working out, like finding and not being afraid to like try these new, like even me, like I was like, I don't know, like some of these workout classes that like we've done together, you're like, I don't know if this is for me. And then you end up having a blast.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think good advice would be just stay open-minded with just your career, your life. And we always talk about, it's cliche, life is a journey, right? But I feel like everything you've done with soccer or dance or whatever your thing was, maybe it was athletics or something else, prepare you for this moment.
Absolutely. And in more ways than one, I can bring up how soccer has kind of helped me in this sense to be at Recruiterboom and within the professional setting. Like for one example, it's like you grow up with a sport and you're required to be a team player. You want to lean and have that support of your friends, and that's the same thing as when you're in the office. Like for anyone that's seen us, we're always hyping each other up, like supporting. If you're not having a good day, we're going to talk about it. We're going to work through it together. And I think having that support within your new work, it kind of fills that void of having your friends on your team.
That's true. For me, it was a little different because ballet was so individual, so I almost had to like develop a whole new part of my brain that was like, this is a team, and you trust your team. You don't have to rely just on yourself.
No.
So it was almost like just reassuring, and like it made me feel better that I was like, wow, like I don't have to do this all myself. Like this is amazing to see and be a part of, and we're all working together and we can rely on one another. I had never really felt that before. So it was like a whole new, like sometimes you come across these things that are just brand new and you're not used to it, but then you're like, wow, I could totally adjust to this. This is awesome. This is something I've never known.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's different. And I also think another trait for me that transferred was probably my accountability and responsibility. So I think for any time I was going to soccer, I always had to be accountable for my actions. I always had to show up early. I always had to, if I made a mistake, I had to own it. I had to be responsible for my actions because everything that I was doing was a reflection on me, but then also my school. Yeah. And I think that transfers to the workplace because I need to be accountable and making sure that I'm doing what I need to do. Obviously, as we talked about earlier, a bunch of agencies are different, a corporate, and they all run their structure a little bit differently. But with Recruiterboom's method, it's a very hands-free. You get to just trust that I'm going to get it done. And in some situations, people might honestly not do well with that because it's like you have so much rope and you're like, I'm small fish in a big pond. But for me it's nice because I'm accountable to get what I have to do to be successful, and no one's like gonna hold my hand with that, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's in our environment. There's not much hand holding. It's kind of like sink or swim, but like you said, there's that support there too. Is. And I feel like with you, Liv, like there's something like, I mean, there's a lot of special things you bring to the table, but you're able to really focus on, I think everything you just talked about kind of leads to this, like you're really able to focus on exactly what you need to do, and whether you have to go into like a separate room or like I really feel like you're getting to know yourself in what you need to do to like be successful. I think that's so important for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not something that just happened overnight and I was like, I know exactly who I am today. I think it took a lot of reflection, journaling, listening to music, and kind of figuring out what I was good at and what I wanted to be better at. Yeah. And I think for your example, I do, whenever I have a long day of calls, I know that a bunch of us will be in the office talking and I can't listen to 3 different conversations at once. No, I wish I could. So I end up putting myself in a little phone booth and I just stare at a wall because I know that there's nothing interesting going on at that wall. So I know whatever's in front of me, I'm going to focus on. And I think that's just a lot of trial and error. Like I've done stuff that I think that's going to make me more successful, but it's honestly, you try a bunch of things and one of them's going to end up working out. Yeah.
And I noticed that like with our team too, is everyone has these different working styles and everyone has talked about that. Yeah. And like you said, you have to find what feels right for you, what's unique for you. And you cannot, I think one of the things you do really well is putting those blinders on and not comparing yourself to anyone else. Because if you did that,
You're done. Yeah. Comparing yourself is the worst thing you can ever do because every person is just so different and has been through different struggles, learns a different way. And if comparing yourself to someone else is honestly like, I already said it, but the worst thing you can do, death, like XO. And I think, too, it's just because you should only be comparing yourself to yourself because you're going through things that people are not going through. And I think it's the little wins, too. And I know for me with recruiting, if I have a long list of things that I have to do, if I take those things one by one and celebrate those little things that might not be as big of a deal as to other people, it's going to be a big deal to me. Yeah. And I think just making lists smaller and just slowly working your way up will help you build that confidence that you might have had in your sport or in some other area until one day you're actually sitting here and you're like, I'm confident, I'm doing what I'm doing, and I feel good. Yeah. But it takes practice, like,
definitely. So one of the things I wanted to touch on too is just developing that confidence. Like I think, we have a lot of new interns coming in, we always have, and I think like you have this confidence now, but like I guess when you're working with clients, I mean, obviously you're younger. We don't see you that way, but you are. And so it's so impressive to me, but also like what's going on mentally where you're like able to like just deal with clients and just like, I don't know, just do what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it goes back in my mind to everyone is just a person. And even though you're talking to a CEO, if you hype that up and you're like, they're so important, you're going to put yourself down. Like, I think when I talk to these big CEOs, I look at them like, you're a person just like I am. You put one sock on, you probably have a family, kids, like you've been in my situation. Yeah. And I think kind of thinking of them as the same as me helps me have a casual conversation with them.
Totally. It's great advice.
Yeah, honestly, in any aspect of your life, if you're idolizing someone, I think that's great, but also, like, if you put them down to your level, it's easier to have a conversation with them. And I always think back to, like, soccer with this, too, is when I was younger, I ended up committing my freshman year of high school, but I remember playing on ECNL, and I'd look down the sidelines, and there was, like, 150 college coaches just all watching us play, and a lot of the girls in their heads were like, oh my God, if I make a mistake, they're gonna like not like me, and it was super nerve-wracking. But even in that time, I would be like, they're human. They know that if you make a mistake, it's the way it is. And I think it's just having that ability to look at everyone like, you're just like me, you started where I am, and making things familiar.
I wish I had known that sooner. Like, I feel like I would hype things up in my mind. And it's like, I think this is such good advice because I think people tend to do that, right?
It's natural,
yeah.
You know? And I think correcting yourself in the moment, too, and I'm not perfect at it. There's still been times I've been talking to CEOs and maybe if they, like, adjust their voice a certain way or I ask something and they're like, what? And I'm like, can you repeat that, please? But there's definitely times, but I think just having that confidence and fake it until you make it.
Yes.
And people say that all the time, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
definitely. You have to because you're gonna, like, however you want to say it, fake it till you make it or faith it till you make it, or it's like you're learning, and everyone should be learning, I think, all the time.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
And I think people need to be open-minded, you know, and they shouldn't hold these specific constructs in their mind of the person they should be talking to, or we talk about this, you know, at our meeting this week, but like what a leader looks like, and like there's different styles, there's so many different people. You know, we've gotten into like diversity in the workplace. We're definitely going to be talking about that, I know, in the podcast coming up, but like all of these topics are just so important. And gosh, like I think we've touched on so many really important things. Is there anything else that we missed that you want to share?
I think it's important for anyone thinking of a recruiting career or not sure if they are to try it, because if you're someone that loves to talk to people, build connections, and try different things, I think it's a great career to get into. And a lot of my work here is working with entry levels, and I really like that because I'm able to kind of connect my ability to be able to go to school while also being in the professional workplace, and how all those skills transferred and how it feels to really try something new, and that you don't have to have it all figured out. So I think that if you're considering recruiting, I think that it's something that everyone should at least try or, you know, get into.
Yeah. And it's nice because you can see a variety of backgrounds, like, you know, folks we talk to, or even our internal teams. You know, we'll probably have her on the podcast too, but we had somebody that was a flight attendant who, you know, now works here crushing it, you know, so you just never know. So I love this whole concept of just being open-minded and trying new things, and, you know, like you said in the beginning, you know, finding out what you don't like and being pointed in the direction that, you know, you're meant to go. This was amazing.
This was amazing, and I thank you so much for having me on here. I've really enjoyed being able to kind of give my insight, and obviously I'm still learning too, so if there's anything that people, while listening to this podcast, resonate with or want to know further on, I have my LinkedIn, my Instagram. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'd love to talk more. Or if you're considering recruiting too, like, I can give you a little bit more of my experience and help you out and walk you through that. So the doors are always open at Recruiterboom, and we like to be able to help you find your next career spot, I guess.
Absolutely. Anytime. Well, thank you so much, Liv. This is just awesome.
We have these conversations every day. They're so fun. But thank you, guys. It's been an honor. And stay tuned for Amanda's next episode. It's going to be a good one.
Woo, woo, woo. All right. Pop off, queens.
Woo.